Fireworks, and every single regular season it seems to be the Bills getting the Chiefs number. What you need to know about that big game next on Game Day Recap. Back here on Game Day Recap. This feels like a holiday every time we get to watch Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen go head-to-head. Their 10th meeting earlier today. It's tied for the most all-time between MVP quarterbacks aged 30 or younger. A very specific stat there from our research team. But when you look at the numbers, they give Patrick Mahomes the nod. Why? Because he typically wins in the playoffs. You see that number down there, 4-0 in playoff games. Interesting note about this year's matchup, though, guys. It was the first time where neither of these teams were a division leader in this matchup. Either way, it is the Bills standing tall once again in the regular season. They beat the Chiefs 28-21 as we welcome you back here on Game Day Recap. Pete Prisco, Rand Carthon, Danny Cannell. I'm Haley Sutton. Guys, this was a fun one, kind of back and forth, and it just seems to be that Buffalo has Kansas City's number in the regular season. And Pete, one of the things that we were talking about throughout this game were two things that you pointed to. The tight ends went crazy, and Joey Bosa becoming more and more of a great signing for this Bills team. What was most impressive for you?
Well, it wasn't tight ends early in the game. He got them involved. And remember, going into this game, there was a lot of talk about what do they do? They don't have the receivers. Do they go get a receiver? They might go look in the market. They've been exploring it. Do they find a guy? But what Joe Brady did was he found the tight ends, and he took advantage of that, and they had big plays. So I think that's important for them. They still need to address wide receiver, and I think they're going to make a move before Tuesday. They need to get some vertical speed in that offense. When you lack that, it really allows teams to play in a phone booth, and I think they need to get speed. But as far as Joey Bosa, this is why they got him. They've been addressing this Patrick Mahomes problem for years. If you go back and look at their drafts, they drafted defensive ends. Some of them didn't work out. Russo worked out. Some of them didn't. They've tried to address it. Von Miller, then he got hurt. Didn't work out. That's why they got Joey Bosa. Put him on the ground in the big game. But it's all well and good. You do it now in November. But let's see those guys do it in January.
I was going to say, what's the phrase? We'll see you in January. Yep. We'll see how this one works out. Were you more impressed by the Bills' ability to keep this regular season streak over the Chiefs going, or I guess more disappointed in the effort that Kansas City had today?
Yeah, I was more disappointed in the defensive effort of the Kansas City Chiefs, and especially under Spags. Spags is known for being able to make the second half adjustment, and you didn't really quite see that this game because I think they were only held scoreless in the fourth quarter, and they were still able to hold on. But that was going to be my question. How much does this game truly matters? I know it matters in the seeding and where the game is played, but when it matters most, Kansas City has always won. So how much does this win matters? And could it be it's in Buffalo's head, like, oh, here we go again, like we beat them in the regular season? To me, it just puts more pressure on Buffalo to have to do it again, hopefully in January.
We previewed this game earlier in the week, and you asked me about this game and why the Bills have regular season success and Kansas City has postseason success. I think it's because the Bills care more about the regular season than the Chiefs do. The Chiefs are just like, get us a chance in the playoffs. Like they remind me.
Let us get in the tournament.
Yes, just let us get a seat at the table, which Pete was telling me earlier, if the season ended today, they'd be on the outside looking in.
Correct.
They'll be okay, and I do think they get there. But I think the Chiefs, all they care about is the postseason. They're just trying to rack up Vince Lombardi trophies, and the Bills are trying to knock them from their perch. So I do think the Bills are more dialed in the regular season. But what was astounding to me is I never thought you would see a game where you'd have Patrick Mahomes with the worst completion percentage of his career and Josh Allen with the best of his career. That was the phenomenal dynamic that was unfolding. This game reminded me a little bit of the Super Bowl loss to the Tampa Bay Bucks, how much Patrick Mahomes was constantly running around. And while they only sacked him 3 times, they hit him 15 times. And Patrick Mahomes took some big shots today that I think Kansas City has got to go back and look at and say, if we're going to knock off this Buffalo team in the playoffs, we need to do a better job of protecting Patrick Mahomes. And this was a really, really impressive defensive performance. Gregory Rousseau, Bosa, the defensive game plan, bringing some corner blitzes. Mahomes just never looked comfortable out there. And I thought that was probably the story of the game was the defensive game plan.
You know, you made that point about the importance of the regular season. I think that might have been the case in years past. I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore. I think if you look at what Buffalo's doing now, everything they're doing in resting guys and sitting guys and making sure they're back healthy again is to get ready for January. You know, they've been there. They've been close. The regular season used to mean so much to them. I don't think it does anymore. I think it means more about the playoffs. But here's the other part of that, though. You'd rather be in Buffalo in January than in Kansas City. I can tell you that. And so if you can get the game in Buffalo in that, and I know they've won there. I know the Chiefs have won there in the playoffs. You'd still rather play them in Buffalo than in Kansas City.
To your point, if the playoffs were to start right now, the Colts would be the #1 overall seed at 7-2, and followed by the Patriots close behind, and the Jags would have the final AFC playoff spot. The Chiefs are on the outside looking in 8 because they beat them. You are correct. Okay, final thoughts. Anything else we want to say before we move on here on this?
James Cook was awesome. He was fantastic today. Always good to have that run game going. Josh Allen with his legs again. He's such a dynamic weapon. It was a really impressive day for the Bills.
I think, by the way, real quick, I'm sorry. Both these teams, don't mean to do that.
I know.
Both these teams are going to be active on the market, I think.
What do they need?
I think the Chiefs need to explore running back.
And that's exactly where I was going. Thank you for the lob.
I gave you
Because I was going to say Buffalo has their running game, and they relied on it today. James Cook had 27 carries. Kansas City needs to find their guy. They need a playmaker back there that they can trust in those moments to hand the ball off, because that's going to make this offense even more dangerous when you have the threat of play action.
Where are you going for that, though?
There are a number
Breece Hall?
of places.
Would you call him Breece Hall?
I would call on Breece Hall. I would call on Alvin Kamara. I think he would be dynamic in this offense with his ability to win on those choice routes. If I'm going Breece Hall, I would probably go as high as a third, because he's a young back that you can extend after the year. But then if we're talking Alvin Kamara, it would be probably a fifth that could become a fourth, maybe, depending on his performance, us going to playoffs, all those things.
I think I agree with you. I think they need to make a move for a back, and I think the Chiefs need to make, the Bills need to make a move for a receiver and maybe a defensive tackle if they can find that.
That trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. I know all of you guys will be well tapped into that.
Well, we will be.
All right, let's hit another break here on Game Day Recap. Let's keep the fun, winning conversations going. I don't know that anyone expected Bryce Young and the Panthers to walk away with a win over the Packers. That's what happens when you wear bad uniforms.
What just happened to the Kansas City Chiefs? A team built on dominance, precision, and championship swagger just dropped below the playoff line after a 28-21 loss to the Buffalo Bills, and Chiefs Kingdom is feeling it. This wasn't just another regular season stumble. This was a gut check, a harsh reminder that even dynasties can lose their edge when execution falls apart. Let's be honest, this game felt strange from the start. Patrick Mahomes and the offense had flashes. That direct snap to Rashee Rice for a touchdown was vintage Andy Reid creativity, but outside of that, the rhythm just never settled. Drives that used to end in highlight reel touchdowns are now ending in field goals or stalled fourth down tries. Kansas City moved the ball between the 20s, but when it came time to finish, the precision just wasn't there. And against a team like Buffalo, you can't afford to leave points on the field. Defensively, things were equally frustrating. Chiefs came into this matchup as one of the league's top units, but Dalton Kincaid and the Bills' tight ends exposed real cracks in the armor. A 47-yard gash up the middle, missed tackles, and soft coverage in the red zone, it all added up. For a defense that's carried this team most of the season, this one felt like a step back. Meanwhile, Josh Allen and the Bills looked hungry. They played like a team that knew their season was on the line, physical, disciplined, and opportunistic. James Cook set the tone early with powerful runs, keeping Kansas City's defense on the field and the Chiefs' offense on the sideline. Buffalo controlled the clock, the tempo, and ultimately the outcome. Now here's the bigger issue. This isn't just about one loss. At 5-4, the Chiefs are officially below the AFC playoff line. Let that sink in. For a franchise that's owned the conference for nearly a half a decade, that's uncharted territory. The margin for error? Gone. Every remaining game is now a must-win, starting after the bye week against a red-hot Denver Broncos squad riding a 6-game streak. And with teams like the Colts and Texans still on the schedule, there are no easy outs left. You could feel the frustration on the field as the clock hit 0. Mahomes looked deflated. Travis Kelce, usually the emotional heartbeat of the team, walked off in silence. This isn't about talent. It's about execution, discipline, and rediscovering the edge that once made the Chiefs untouchable. So here's the question, Chiefs Kingdom. Is this just a midseason slump or the start of a real decline? Can Andy Reid and Mahomes reset the culture during this bye week, fix the red zone woes, and remind everyone why this team is still the standard in the AFC? Because make no mistake, the dynasty isn't dead, but it's definitely being tested. The rest of the league smells blood in the water. It's time for Kansas City to decide whether this chapter ends in disappointment or redemption.